Welcome to the How to Life podcast by LifeWorks, a modern day advice column for young adults.
where we answer your questions on how
To
life.
Welcome back to the How to Life podcast with D and T. Today's question is how to let go of feeling guilty for doing well in life while others are suffering. For example, Palestine. I deeply appreciate this question. As a big feeler myself, this question has come up a lot, as I'm sure it's come up for a lot of us in these crazy times, and particularly with the new presidency and this overwhelm of executive orders that are creating a lot of fear and uncertainty. I especially appreciate this question because I think it's going to resonate for all of us. I think we could all use this conversation right now. I know I could. So, first off, I want to acknowledge the grief, the anger, the sadness, all of the emotions that you are feeling with what's going on in the world, what's the tragedy that continues throughout Gaza and to the Palestinian people. It is hard to find words, honestly. This compassion that we feel for the world and for others is a beautiful gift. But we also need to remember to have compassion for ourselves. I'd like to introduce you to the term, if you're not already familiar, comparative suffering. Comparative suffering is the act of comparing one's own pain to that of others. When you mention feeling guilt, it's sounding like maybe, or it implies that potentially you're feeling some of this. While almost always well-intentioned, comparative suffering can be dangerous because it often leads to invalidating our own experiences and emotions. And so, to answer your question, how do I let go of feeling guilty for doing well while others are suffering? The answer is simply to make room for both. Remind yourself that you are a complex creature, you are human, and both can exist. This is called duality. Duality is or means seemingly opposites can exist at the same time. So, yes, you can feel joy and celebrate your wins without taking away from the grief and the sadness that you also feel for what's transpiring to the Palestinian people. I feel like we're often using all or nothing rhetoric, right? One or the other. Like, I can only feel joy, but if I feel that, then it's taking away from everything that I'm feeling for others. No. It's yes and. It's both and. This all or nothing rhetoric does not serve us as humans, and we need to slowly remove this type of thinking and this type of rhetoric from our vocabulary because it simply does not serve who we are as people. We have so much going on at all times, and with social media and the internet at the tips of our fingers and overwhelming us with news, we need to leave room for everything that we are feeling, thinking at any given time, because that changes. You can see something tragic on the news and then also get a wonderful notification from your friend that they're having a baby and you're super happy for them, right? I'm sure this is sounding a little redundant, but it's because I want to reinforce the duality that exists in all of us. I don't think we talk about this enough. That's honey.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think you bring up a great point about duality, or even just like the intersection of all your emotions at once. You know, to think that the only way to honor and respect and empathize with someone suffering is to mirror it, is to diminish your own joy out of a feeling of guilt, I think is wrong. And I think doesn't appreciate that you can hold all of these different emotions and feelings at once, like you said. It's really disheartening to think of that example where you might diminish your capacity to help celebrate and spread joy when other people are experiencing joy simply for the fact that there is suffering going on. Suffering is something that's always going on and something that will always go on. And to think that you don't ever deserve to feel joy because it exists somewhere at some time would necessarily mean that you would never allow yourself to feel that joy. And I think, at least in my personal experience, I know some people who perpetually feel this level of dread, who are entirely unable to appreciate the brighter things in life, the silver linings, the things that may even just be objectively good and happy to have in their life because all they can focus on is the bad. Um, and I just think that that's no way to live. Um,
Quality of life, quality of your life still matters.
totally. And I feel like the kind of person who's going to ask themselves this question of how what makes me worthy of feeling this joy and not feeling guilty when people are suffering is really just this inability to accept the good things that are happening to them and to receive. I think it's a really powerful lesson in maybe not being able to internalize that. Maybe it's internalizing the success, which we'll definitely talk about in a future episode, or if it's just internalizing this inability and rejection of love, of happiness and goodness, which it brings on this whole different host of problems, you know. But I think to bring it back specifically to the question, you know, your success is not mutually exclusive to someone suffering. Meaning, it's not your success doesn't cause, or it isn't causing that person's suffering. You know, just because you're, I guess from the question and the description, you're experiencing, you know, material success, you're doing well in your career, financially you're pretty stable, when other people are having a hard time, you know, have compassion and humility. Obviously, if you're the person who's asking this type of question, I don't think we need to remind you to be humble or feel humility. I think it's so far in the other direction of feeling so humbled by other people's suffering and negative experiences that you feel like you don't deserve that material success. But I think, at least when I think of my own experience, there's definitely this bias against extreme exploitative capitalism where there are definitely people in this world whose material success is a direct result of causing other people suffering. And I think that's not a unique or rare opinion to have, especially, you know, when considering the reaction to the United Healthcare situation. I think there's a lot of people who feel that frustration. Absolutely, and empathize with that. No, no, but that's a totally normal reaction as well as all the other reactions to that situation. And I bring that up because I think there's this inherent bias and understanding or internalization that many people have that in the world, if you look around, if you just open your eyes, you can see how a lot of people's material success is a direct result of other people's suffering, is causing other people's suffering, and it's only too easy to map that onto your own experience if you're the one experiencing the material success. So you're thinking, oh, well, my material success is unfair. But in most situations, that's not what's happening, you know, unless you're the billionaire CEO of some corporation that's like exploiting labor and things like that. If you're just doing your best and you're finding success in your job and career, it's very likely that you're just doing a good job, and that should be celebrated.
For the sake of this conversation, we're going to assume we're not talking to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and that you worked your butt off to get where you are today, and that you absolutely deserve all of the good things that you have worked so hard to achieve and earn, and you're now collecting on it, right? Yeah, maybe you went to school, you got the job, right? You're paying your bills. You're feeling joy and contentment because you are finally at a place where maybe you can breathe. Maybe it's just a few moments in your day. Let yourself enjoy that. And being the compassionate human that you clearly are, allow yourself to honor everything that you're feeling as well while balancing that.
Something that came up when I was reading this question was thinking about the advice that you give to people who are struggling. Um, and a very common one and a cliche is like, it's okay to not be okay, right? That's a good way to like
Mm.
help someone through tough times and understanding like, hey, you shouldn't beat yourself up for not doing well or for being in a dire situation, because that could happen to anyone. So it's okay. You don't need to add on the extra stress of I deserve this or things like that. So if we think it's okay to not be okay, isn't it okay to just be okay? If you're doing okay, you're doing well even,
Mm-hmm.
that's also okay. Again, with the caveats of as long as you're not harming others or yourself, that's okay. You know, you you can just be doing well. And isn't that what we all strive toward and hope for deeply, is to be doing okay? Not everyone has dreams of lavish wealth, and some people just want a simple, safe life. And if you're having that and enjoying that, reflecting on the times where you didn't have that and where you weren't okay should help you appreciate how okay you are. And maybe you're just so used to not being okay that when you finally are, you're trying to make yourself not okay. You're trying to make it feel like
Woo!
you're trying to make it feel like you don't deserve it, because it's uncomfortable to be safe and it's uncomfortable to be doing well.
I had such a physical reaction to that because I feel red because I've been there. And I think that is such a powerful call out because I think we've all been there at some point. And to build off of that, it's a reminder that you are not always in the best place, right? As humans, like especially going through your 20s, your teenage years, life it feels so chaotic. At least it has been for us. I think most people during those initial decades are just figuring it out and often going through it. Um, it's not even including any, trauma that's happened in your life. Like, if you're finally at a place where things are good, please allow yourself to receive. And that's probably a whole episode on its own, just learning to receive what that looks like, what that means. Because, like you're saying, when things have not been great, maybe things being good is new. And then learning what that looks like to just be grateful, receive, be in it, allow yourself to just bask in it. It's understandable if this is new that you're just simply needing to learn how to do that. That's okay too. Take your time, enjoy. And I think a lot of the answer to how to do that is to just slow down and pause and reflect and acknowledge that you are the bad mother effer that got you to exactly where you are, and working on believing that you deserve all of that goodness and you are still a good person and all of these things are still going on and you care deeply for it. So let's talk about capacity. when we are feeling joy, when we are feeling like we're in a more stable place in our life, that typically also translates to us maybe having more capacity than we did when we weren't feeling so great. So when we talk about feeling guilt, what if we were to flip that energy and really just translate that to having capacity to spread that joy, having capacity to offer support? Thoughts, honey?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into this idea of turning your guilt into gratitude to increase your capacity to help others, to help those who you feel your heart goes out to because they're in these situations and they're struggling. First, really, it starts with, appreciating that you're at where you're at and just receiving it, appreciating it, and showing gratitude um, by finding ways to give back, by even just, you know, doing a random act of kindness. Things where you are not letting these feelings swirl about inside you and letting your cup, which is materially overflowing, have that mirrored in your heart so that it's overflowing out into the world and making a better place. I think it's sequential, right? Starting with, realizing that you shouldn't be feeling guilt over it, turning that guilt into gratitude, appreciating where you're at. I'm sure the people who are struggling, if they were to see your situation, I don't think you should feel guilt, but wouldn't you want to honor that by showing gratitude for where you're at, having that, expressing that humility that you clearly have about your situation, and going a step further and turning that gratitude into a way to address the very situations that are causing this confusion by finding causes to help support, by even just engaging someone in a conversation about the situation to raise awareness, just any little thing that you can help get it out, in a positive way and push things in a positive direction, I think is a great way to combat these feelings of undue guilt, to reframe it towards gratitude for your situation, and then, you know, helping others.
That just reminded me of a beautiful example that just came up for me this week. I was checking in with a friend, and we were both acknowledging that we are living in some crazy times right now and are not maybe feeling the most hopeful at this very moment. And my friend said, I'm going to go perform random acts of kindness. I don't know what to do with all this energy. I can't just sit at home. You know what? Let's use that energy for good. Let me go pour love into the community because I don't really know what else I can do with this energy right now. And that's really what we're talking about, right? This guilt, this heaviness. We're feeling this excess of energy, and there's some way that we need to get it out. And so what's a healthy way, instead of sitting and beating ourselves up, guilt tripping ourselves? Why don't we try random acts of kindness in the community? So what this friend did was started collecting donations, $5 to $10. I sent in my Venmo, and within 10 minutes, she was out the door, and then texted me 30 minutes later that she had gotten a group of friends together, volunteers, bought them lunch, and then they were collecting food, going out to buy food to deliver meals to families in need. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to turn that energy into something good, into something healthy. And then she was able to come back home and actually sit a lot less restless, right? Calm. And also indirectly, because she included me in these efforts and allowed me to participate by donating $5, for example, I also was able to indirectly participate and receive from that. And I felt a little bit better myself, even though I wasn't out there delivering meals. She lives in a different state, or I totally would have. I appreciate that type of energy. And so I want to call all of that in when you're feeling heavy, when you're feeling like you don't know what to do, when you're feeling overwhelmed by things going on in the world. What is in your control is how you include others, how you support others, how you can spread joy and invest in your community, just like my friend did. And that could be directly or indirectly. Don't underestimate what something like that can do, because it truly did make my day better when I was actually mentally spiraling yesterday and feeling really, really heavy with everything going on. So, shout out to that friend. I really, really appreciate you.
Yeah, when you shared that with me yesterday, I thought that was a beautiful reminder of what we can do, reclaiming the power in these situations where you
Mm.
just might not know what to do, and turning it into something again that empowers others, and letting your light shine. Very cliche quote, but right, it's like a
No.
candle doesn't diminish its light by sharing its flame, and
Mm.
being that light in the darkest times, I think, is the most important. Finding ways to help make the world a little bit better, not letting these feelings of the world being dark and people not being great in certain respects, not letting that overtake you and turn you into the very thing that you dislike, by resisting that and being better than it, and embracing that, you know, shadow can't exist without light and light can't exist without shadow. There will always be darkness, but choosing the side of light and trying to be that light for others
Mm.
and sharing that light, igniting the flame for others, is one of the best ways to make the world a better place that you so hope it is, right? And it can be. I think remembering that is really important.
Mm.
Visit the links in our bio to submit your questions on how to life
or book a coaching session with us.